What's good, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of the Take Time Out with Tre Mosley podcast. I am your host, Tre Mosley, and there's a saying that goes, there's a man that needs no introduction, and 99% of the time that is correct. But just in case, you don't know who he is, and shame on you if you don't. Uh, he hails from a blue collar town, Cleveland, Ohio, and now lives his days basking in the California sun and has been for a long time, we'll say. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mr. Dave Fennoy.
Hey, and the crowd goes wild. Woo!
Unfair flows from the heavens.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tre Mosley, how you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good. I'm interviewing you, man.
Oh yeah, I'm just so used to doing my own
I,
thing on
I,
Wednesday night. So yeah,
yes, plug
wait,
away.
let me get into guest mode.
Yeah.
Here we
So
go.
on Wednesdays on
Ask Dave
YouTube
for anything.
and Facebook, and I think LinkedIn also.
Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, and YouTube, and all the Ask Dave Fennoy anythings live on my YouTube channel, Dave Fennoy Voiceover Training.
That is correct. So you can go back and see the ones in the past, and you can catch them.
Even the one with you.
That is correct, sir. So I am especially happy. Dave has been over the past almost decade or so, not only a good mentor, but a better friend and better person. Uh, we have broken bread, literally. His wife throw down in the kitchen, y'all.
Yes, she does.
Oh Lord. We had real chicken and waffles, not the Roscoe, Miss Mo went in
I'm
there.
not gonna. Well, we're not gonna besmirch the fine
No, no, no,
character
no,
and
no.
taste of Roscoe's.
Roscoe's is what I'm
Roscoe's
just
is
saying.
Roscoe's.
Roscoe's is Roscoe,
But
but
my wife
Mosley
does throw
knows
down.
too. Straight up. But yeah, he has been very influential in my career. And anytime I get a chance to sit and chat with him, it's always a joy. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring him on. So with that said, on this show, Dave, I like to talk about more than the after. People see the after, and by the after, I mean, you know, accolades and the
Yeah.
many hundreds of voices that you've done. But I think for my particular
Mhm.
uh folks that watch, um, they want to know more about the before.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so let's wind the clock back to those thrilling days of yesteryear. Growing up as a lad in the Midwest of
In
Cleveland,
the streets
Ohio.
of Cleveland, Ohio.
Yes, sir. Tell us about young Dave and how he came up, and we'll then start to put the breadcrumbs together till the VO that we know and love that you do now.
Well, young Dave grew up in Cleveland um, in the late 50s, 60s. I graduated high school in 1970, so I know some of y'all was just a wink and a wiggle way back then. But one of my earliest childhood memories was wondering why my parents settled in Cleveland. For some reason, I always knew Cleveland was not the place I wanted to be.
Mm,
Um, don't know why I had that so early in my life, but I felt like it wasn't the real city that I wanted to grow up in. Other than that, uh, I was a pretty happy kid. I have great parents. It was in vogue for a while to, well, my parents ruined me and I had to go through this, and now I have recreated myself. My parents loved the hell out of me, sacrificed for my sister and I for our education, sent my sister to a private boarding school because she wanted to do that. She decided at 3 she was going to be a doctor
oh
and
wow.
never wavered from that. Now she's been a doctor for many, many years. I didn't know quite what I wanted to be. And I think they were probably more concerned with, well, we got to make sure this boy gets a good education because he seems to be a little bit all out there.
You're a little
Uh,
different.
I loved, playing sports in the street. Sometimes we were baseball in a street. We got away. Oh, car coming. Okay. Sometimes football in the park. Um, My father tried to teach me tennis because he played when got a scholarship to go to college um, when he was a young man. Uh, but I was also into the arts, and they sent me to Karamu House, which in Cleveland, Ohio, if you see a black actor on television and you know he's from Cleveland, he probably or she probably went to Karamu House. And there I did art and sculpture and music and dance and acting.
Mm.
Um, and did a number of plays there. When I got into junior high school, the public school was terrible. My parents um, sent me to a private boys' school. It was a day school, Hawkins School for Boys. I was one of the first black kids to go there.
Oh, wow.
Um, and that was an experience in and of itself. I can't say I experienced a lot of face on, we don't like you racism, but it was more the typical racism of America in general, which is the smile, but not always the opportunities. But for the most
Mhm.
part, I'm going to say I have some good friends I made there. Uh, a kid, when we were first going to, did a semester in junior high school, we were at the same junior high school. We couldn't stand each other.
Mm.
Another brother who lived down the street. Once we got to Hawkins, we became best friends.
Solidarity.
So my mother was a reading specialist, so she made sure I read well. And at Hawkins, I was able to one, learn the culture of the dominant culture in America, and not only the dominant culture, but the dominant culture with money.
Right.
I was going to school with grandsons and grandnephews of presidents and senators.
Wow.
There were very, very rich people there, some people just upper middle class, and then some of us who were in the middle class, but no way we were upper.
Right.
Um, so in so many ways, it helped me. When I got to college, I didn't have to crack a book for the first semester or so because the education there had been so good. And part of that education, I think, is learning to hold your own with anybody.
Mhm.
Uh, I can walk into a room and not be intimidated because it's people who don't look like me, who went to great schools and have money. I'll look them in the eye and tell them whatever I need to tell them. The flip side, of course, in my neighborhood, some of my partners that I used to run with when I was a little kid and through elementary school and first year of junior high school, um, to some of them, it seemed like I was a traitor.
Mm.
Why are you going to this school? You know, and what do you mean? Why am I going? I'm going to school because my parents sent me there.
Right.
And I think there were people in the neighborhood sometimes that wanted me to rebel and go on. But um, and for those of you who are black, we've come a long way. I remember hearing a lot. Oh man, you talk like a white boy, that kind of thing.
Mm. Been there.
Uh, uh, Hopefully, those days are gone. Um, I don't know who your audience is exactly, but for those of us, for those in your audience who are black, and for those who aren't, you get a little tip of some of the issues in the black community. Um, there has been colorism and there has been educationalism, and almost the exact opposite of one another. If you're too educated, if you speak too well, you are becoming the enemy. You are becoming your white oppressor. And
You
why
ain't
are
down
you
no
playing
more.
tennis? Why are you studying this? These things aren't black? Well, we got to get over that. And I think for the most part, most of us have. Always hated, still have little jokes from time to time where, oh, you don't know that? You don't listen to that song? You don't know that artist? Oh, we're taking away your black card.
Like, oh, yeah.
It's just funny now, but it was based uh, in a lot of hurt and pain uh, for a lot of Black folks who were trying to lift themselves out of uneducation
Yeah.
and into um, a more middle class or upper class, um, rewarding financial life. But I still lived in the hood. Still
Yeah.
lived in the hood, Cleveland, Ohio. Went back not too long ago for a high school reunion, and whew, I'm glad I'm not there anymore.
Oh
Cleveland
boy.
wasn't good then, and it's worse now.
Wow.
Uh,
Now, despite that, and I want to go back to your days at the Caramoo House. I know you said that if, anybody who was a person of color, that was like the spot for them to
that was
get
the spot.
training in
If
the arts.
if your
What made it
parents wanted to
so?
expose you to the arts, that's
Yeah.
where you were sent.
So what made that the place to be for folks for Black folks to go?
You know, it was already up and running and doing its thing when I got there, and all my memories of it are in retrospect. It was after I got to Los Angeles and started paying attention to Black actors who were doing anything, and you'd meet somebody from Cleveland. Everybody went to Caramoo House. I didn't realize when I was a child how important a center it was. Uh, but a life raft for some, a foundation for others, foundation and a life raft. You got to train in the arts.
Mhm.
I did modern dance there as a kid. I learned to paint. I learned to sculpt. I learned uh, so many things there, and acting. I was in plays when I was there, uh, and that was back in the day when you give your kid, $2 or $3 and some change, and you go get on the bus and take the bus by yourself
Yeah.
at 7, 8 years old to Caramoo House. But the people there cared about you. They educated you. They cared about the arts and your place in it, and encouraging you uh, to be the artist that you wanted to be, even when you didn't know.
Mhm.
All I knew was I enjoyed all of these things. There was a part of me that said, "Oh, I want to grow up and be famous," uh, uh, and I tried my hand first professionally as a musician. Did okay, but got to a point where I'd gotten married, had a kid, and the gigs weren't coming in. And so, oof, this baby wants milk, and she don't care where it comes from. I better
That's
do
right.
something else. So I went into radio, and I've kind of gone off the Caramoo house there, but it was just an amazing place, a place that I am more thankful for now than I was then.
Mhm. Is it still around?
It's still around. I went back to Cleveland a couple of years ago for a high school reunion. I had not been back since a year after I graduated from high school. My father's job, he was a veterinarian, and he worked for the USDA as a meat inspector, and he was given a position as a foreign programs officer, got to travel the world.
Mm.
And we moved to Washington, D.C. Well, my parents moved to Washington, D.C. I had just graduated from high school. They moved to D.C., and I was going off to college in Minnesota.
Mm.
Um, went to college for a couple of years, dropped out, went on the road as a musician for a while. Um, discovered that, like I said, got married, had a kid. Oh boy, this isn't working. Um, well, actually, I'd gone back to school before then, but went back to Howard University, which was really good for me. Um, and Howard, for those who don't know, one of the major HBCUs in the country, one of the best known, great medical school. Not that I went to it. When I went, I just want to get back in school. And
Yeah.
I can go into music or I can go into theater. There were no openings in the theater department, so I went into music.
Gotcha.
So I went through 4 years with a jazz major, a minor in guitar. Did pretty well. Um, but came out while I was there is when I got married and had a child. Came out, was did some tours, did some playing, and discovered that this isn't quite working the way I want to. So went into radio to keep me close to music. And after a decade in radio, where I had a very successful career in San Francisco, um, along the way there, I discovered voiceover.
Mm.
And I'm a little ashamed to say that I didn't know what it was when it was first introduced to me. I was working at a radio station, and this is very early in my attempts to get into radio. I wasn't even on the air yet. I
Mhm.
had taken a job. First, I had an internship, and I had taken a job as a continuity director. I was working at a quiet storm station in Northern California. And the morning guy, we were friendly. I was showing up for work. He was leaving. I said, "Hey, man, where you going?" And he said, "Oh, I'm going over to the city to do some voiceover work." I said, "Voiceover work? What's that?"
Hmm.
And he said, "Well, voicing commercials, TV promos, cartoons, and stuff." I went, "Oh." He goes, "I make more money doing that than I do on the radio." And
Wow.
a light bulb went off,
And
and
I bet.
he gave me a 5-minute spiel on, well, you need to, put a demo together, and then you need to get an agent, and then you start working. And it was like whoop 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 whoop. Uh, and I didn't do anything about it for a couple of years,
Mhm.
but it never left me. It was always on my mind. And but I started taking some classes and knocking on doors. Uh, I worked for a TV station, TV 20 in up in the Bay Area. And you could do all the TV promos you could fit in an hour for $25 an hour.
What?
This is pre being in the union.
Yes, it gotta
Uh,
be.
it was I was being ripped off, but I was getting good training.
Yeah.
I worked for a company, a megaphone. It was a 976 number company. Now, this is
Wow.
a business model that is gone.
Yeah, that long gone, but I
Yeah,
remember them though.
yeah, and the first gig was the voice of the California lottery, winning number lines.
Hmm.
So, a lot of people weren't at home to watch the lottery when those numbers went by, so, they'd wanna have a place to call. So they could call this 976 number, pay a dollar, and hear me say, "The winning numbers tonight were 47, 53, 16." And I would have to drive over from I lived in Berkeley, you have to drive over to the city, go to their studios, be there when the numbers came, fill in my little script, turn on the microphone, record it, and then drive home.
That's
Would
crazy.
do that every Wednesday. I don't even remember what they were paying me. But they also brought me in to do Michael Jackson and Prince were killing the charts then. So they brought me in, and I was the voice of the Michael Jackson hotline and the Prince hotline. And every week, I'd give a little updates on things that they were doing. "Hey, welcome to the Michael Jackson hotline. Michael's doing such and he's doing such, and he's going to be on tour, and his record," that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they had me do a romance line where I would tell a story. It was for women to call up and listen, and it was always a woman in distress, and my character would save her, and somehow we'd end up at my place or her place, and then the real
Yeah,
adventure would begin.
I'm telling you.
And business model that is totally gone now.
Kaput. How did you go from, I know you said you went to school in Minnesota for a stint and then to HU in DC. In between that came radio. Um, What
No, the radio came after, Howard
okay, radio
University.
came after. So the trek
Yeah.
from DC to California, how did that happen?
Well, I had gotten out of school. I'd had a band, it was called Papers, rolling up the funk and delivering the message.
Alright now.
And we played around the DC area and we recorded an album, and I went out to LA to shop it around, and people liked it, they said, but they didn't know who we were. They couldn't figure out who we were because there was some hardcore R&B on it, there was some jazz things, there were some ballads, and, I think nowadays, maybe it woulda worked, or maybe they just didn't think we were good enough and they were telling me, that, that in a nice way, let me down a nice way. But anyway, since that didn't happen, and I'd gotten married and had a kid, I started wondering, was this music career gonna be what I needed it to be to support a family?
Yeah.
And that's when I decided to go into radio. And I took the Columbia School of Broadcasting radio course, correspondence course, got finished in like 6 weeks, and just knew I was ready. And when I went out to LA, you're supposed to start radio in a small market and move up. I was determined I was going to start in San Francisco. And I just knew that when I got there, I was ready to do morning drive on somebody's radio station.
Yeah.
Guess I was a little full of myself there and didn't really understand the animal. But
Yeah.
fortunately, in my madness, I was able to land uh, a job adjacent. I was working at a little CHR station just on the other side of the hills in Concord. And I did that for a few months, and then I picked up a gig at another station in town. As a matter of fact, it was the number one station in town, KSOL. I was doing overnights there, and I worked there for a while, and very quickly I moved up. I was doing fill-in, and after about a year, the morning person there uh, pissed a bunch of people off, got fired, and they put me in the morning drive seat. And I did morning drive for a couple of years there. Got caught in somebody else's politics between the music director and the program director. It was a program director, and I was fill-in
Mhm.
for this time doing
Yeah.
mornings. But the numbers were good. But the program director wanted me to keep the job. The music director had a buddy of his that he wanted to bring in, and it was his turn apparently.
Mm.
So they brought in a guy, I don't remember his name. He was a brother from Oklahoma who'd been working country western music for many years, and I knew when I heard him this wasn't going to work. He was the wrong guy for San Francisco, especially San Francisco at a black radio station.
Yeah.
So the AM station in town, KDIA, the boss of the Bay, they hired me, and they let me have my way in the mornings. I was just a morning maniac. I was bringing comedians on, and we were doing jokes there. I was creating characters and little shows. Harry O'Banion, Private Dick, and other characters. We're just having a really good time. And such a good time that I was there for about a year and a half, and KSOL fired that guy and
Mm.
brought me back, and the rest of my time on the radio, I was morning man at KSOL, working under the name Billy David Ocean.
I was hoping you was gonna go there. So, for you kids that don't know, the name Billy Ocean for a specific generation, was a British singer who had hits upon hits in the '80s and '90s.
Yeah,
Uh,
Caribbean Queen,
that's yeah,
Hey
"Get Out
You,
of My
Get Into My
Dream."
Car.
Yes, sir. "One of these nights feel like getting down." That's another
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
Um, so talk about how that went when it's almost like the chicken or the egg, like, who had the name first? Because here you are on air, giving out the call letters, and here's the next song, and like, "Hey, I'm, Billy David Ocean," and all of a
Well,
sudden, like, "Hey."
at the time, see, I was Billy Ocean.
Ah,
It's 107.7 KSOL. I'm Billy Ocean. What's up? Getting you up and on your way on another Bay Area day. Um, I was that guy. And we had jokes. I had characters. Oh, I'm Lance Swisher. Oh, let me tell you the news, Billy. Oh, such and so and so and so did such and such. Um, just doing the morning radio
doing bits.
shtick.
Yeah.
Um, and then Caribbean Queen came out, and I kept getting these calls. Hey, yo, is this Billy Ocean, man? I like your record. I said, well, dude, that's not my record. That's another Billy. Another Billy Ocean? How can it be two Billy Oceans? Come on, man. What you trying to say? And no, really, I'm Billy Ocean. He's Billy Ocean. No, man, it can't be. Come on, tell you that's your record, isn't it? Dude, what's your name? Fred Johnson. Well, Fred, do you think someplace on the planet there might be at least one other Fred Johnson? Oh yeah, man, I never thought about it like that. Well, thank you. Click. And on with the record. But it became so confusing. So many people. I would get that call, those questions. That I said, I'm throwing my real name in the middle of this mess, Billy David Ocean. And then for the rest of my years on radio, I was Billy David Ocean.
That very interesting, because when you think about the success that that dude had, um, I can't imagine. Now, were you ever like in the street somewhere and somebody heard your voice, or did I know, radio back then was heavy, so they did a lot of campaigns on billboards and stuff like that. Did anyone ever?
Well, I never had my picture on a billboard. A lot of commercials, a lot of promos for various things that we were doing, and a lot
Yeah.
of introducing, being the host of concerts. So New Edition, LL Cool J, what's his name? Can't Stop This.
Hammer?
Hammer.
Yeah.
Bears. Too Short. Um, a lot of the groups, and when the concerts were there, we would be promoting them. I would be the person on stage coming out and saying hello to the crowd and introducing the bands and whatnot. So that was enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I in my office here, I got a picture of me and Vanessa Williams
Oh
standing
boy.
side by side. And you know what? Hold on one second. Let me.
We got time. You'll only get this here, folks.
All right. I hope the camera will pick this up well. That's me and Frankie Beverly.
Frankie Beverly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that
How
was a
about
young Dave Fennoy there.
that? Yes, sir. That's cool.
With Robert Townsend in the
Wow.
studio interviewing him.
That's what's up.
I think that's Jackie Jackson. It's one of the Jacksons.
Yes, that is Jackie. That
Yeah,
is
that's
correct,
Jackie.
sir.
And of course, the pièce de résistance.
We waiting for it. Oh, look at that strapping young fellow right there. Pre-dreads and all.
Forget the strapping young fellow. Look at
Oh,
that
yeah,
fine woman.
best believe we see
Yeah.
that
And yes,
goddess next
of
to you.
course, she wanted to have a relationship with me. She couldn't help
Yeah,
herself, but I
come
had to
on.
tell her no.
Yeah,
I
I
was a
know,
married
man.
man.
It's rough. It was rough out there. It's hard out there
Yeah,
for
baby, you need to go marry some tall basketball player.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Look how
Rick
that
Fox.
turned
That's
out.
who you need. Rick Fox.
You know, Dave's loss is Rick's gain. That's all we can say.
There we say. No, no, no. It was her loss.
Oh, talk about it. You heard what the man said. So now that we have entrenched ourselves as in you, in radio, and you were kind of dabbling in voiceover, when did you make the commitment to it and say, you know what, I'm already kind of doing this thing. Maybe I need to put more irons in the fire and start to invest in it.
You
When did
know,
it become like the thing for you?
mid 80s, about 86 or so, I decided that one day voiceover would be the career. And I started taking classes at a place now that I teach from time to time, Voice Tracks San Francisco. Samantha Perry has owned the business. She's just stepping down from it now.
Mm,
But another buddy of mine who was taking classes with her, we had started voiceover together. We were both booking about once a month. And suddenly he's booking a couple times a month. And I said, what are you doing to book more?
yeah.
And he didn't want to tell me, but he finally said, well, I've been taking some lessons with this girl, Samantha Paris, and, you know, I'm getting better. So we started taking some classes together to save a little money. So we'd book an hour. Don't do that to me. We'd book an hour, and you had to go everywhere then.
Yeah.
Um, and I did this for about a year or so. One of my first lessons, though, was with the voice of Smurfette, whose name
Oh,
is escaping me just at the moment. But I took one lesson with her, and I'm doing some animation, and she's, "Oh, you're ready. You just do it. You're ready to do it." And by the way, that lesson was $50.
wow.
Of course, that was in the 80s,
Many
um,
moons ago.
many moons ago. But finally, it was in '89. I took a weekend workshop with an agent from L.A., Lee Gilbert. She was an agent at Sutton Barth and Benari here in Los Angeles. And it covered commercial, promo, narration, and animation through the weekend. And at the end of it, she gave me her card and said, you're really talented. If you ever decide to come out to L.A., we'd love to represent you at Sutton Barth and Benari. And I took her card, but I was the morning guy at KSOL at the time, and I thought, oh yeah, when I'm making as much money in voiceover as I am doing on the radio, I'll make that move.
Right.
Well, that was fall of 1989, and February 9th, 1990, one by one, the entire on-air staff was fired.
Oof.
They'd gotten a new consultant. Consultant sometimes is a euphemism for asshole. But they'd gotten a new consultant who wanted to bring in his own people. So being the morning guy, was the first one fired, got off the air. The general manager would like to see you. Yeah, thank you very much. And it's interesting, the Bay Bridge earthquake that had happened in '89, just a few months before,
Mm-hmm.
I became the hero of the station, me and the station's engineer. The Bay Bridge had fallen. There were, it was a mess. Yeah, you had in Oakland, the
Mm-hmm.
580 had collapsed and killed a number of people.
Yeah, my sister
Fortunate,
was there.
yeah,
My
fortunately,
nephew was born in Oakland Alameda Hospital.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I lived in Berkeley, but the next day, I'd talked to the engineer and we made a plan, and couldn't go across the Bay Bridge to get to San Mateo where the station was, and it was rough getting there anyway. But I got to the station. The engineer and I got the station up on time, and I was able to play music and talk to people, share news. My news guy, Dave Padilla, who has retired recently and is in the Bay Area Hall of Fame for newscasters now. Great guys. We're still great buddies. Um, the three of us got the station up. And in a time like that, having something familiar and somebody you know sharing information, commiserating with you, playing the music you love, uh,
Mhm.
keeping things light and yet understanding the seriousness of the situation. Um, it did a lot of good. The station ended up giving me a plaque. Well, me and the engineer and Dave Padilla,
Yeah.
we got a plaque for, I forget what they called it, heroism or whatever it was. And of course, then it was just a few months later, bye-bye.
See ya.
See ya. But my attitude was, oh, well, I guess I get to go do that voiceover thing in LA now. And I had sent, I had run into the address and phone number of a guy I went to high school with who was the cartoon director, not the voice director, but of the cartoons, the drawings of Teenage
Yeah.
Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, wow.
And he had said, put a demo together and we'll see. And this is before I was fired, so I put a demo together. I was all the voices. It was Zoltan the Warrior. I was Zoltan. I was Zoltan's comical sidekick. I was the bad guy and the bad guy's heavy.
Mhm.
And did about a minute and a half thing of them battling and so forth, and sent it down to him. And he called me back. He says, well, I'm glad this was pretty good because I only did it because we go way back. And that got me 3 auditions.
Hmm.
Well, I was still living in the Bay Area then.
Right.
But this wasn't a world that we're in now where I'm talking to you, you're in Vegas, I'm here, where we have home studios, we do auditions, and we just email an MP3.
Yeah.
I had to get to LA for each of these 3 auditions. So I made sure they were after 1 o'clock. I would get up in the morning, get in my little MR2, a little Toyota MR2, and I
Oh,
would
yeah, you are too.
drive the 5.5, 6 hours down to LA, go to the studio, walk in, get the script, do my script study, and look at the guys and gals that were in there who were voices I knew. Didn't always know their names, but I know, oh, these are the people that are actually doing this.
Right.
I'm the new guy. Nobody knows me. Do my audition. Been there 5-10 minutes, get back in the car, drive the 5 or 6 hours home. I did that 3 times. You know how many of those I booked?
Or all
Yeah.
3.
0.
Zilch.
Zilch. But I knew I was in the game. And also didn't quite know it exactly then, but our real job is to audition. And you're not going to get most of your auditions. But you got to keep pitching. You got to keep taking those at-bats.
Right.
Swing, swing, swing. And you're going to book a certain percentage. And the better you get, the higher the percentage. And that percentage may never be above 20%. But 20% of things that you book, especially when those bookings become repeat business, it can become very lucrative.
Yeah.
After that, I'd been fired, and I found the lady's card, and she said, yes, do come on down, Lee Gilbert. And they signed me. I drove down one Monday, went to their office, and of course I thought I'm going to walk. I'm Dave Fennoy, kind of, let's go on in and sign it. But I called, and they said, I was there on Monday. Oh, well, can you come in on Wednesday? I'm like, well, damn.
Right.
I'm staying with my buddy John Kafka, who was the director of cartoons for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm staying with him and then his brother, Tom, while I was in town. And Tom was doing sound effects for Days of Our Lives on the CBS lot,
Mhm.
which I think showed up on another network. I don't remember
Yeah, it
exactly.
went to NBC.
Yeah. Um, but when was coming down then, still had my family in the Bay Area, I was commuting every week.
Wow.
So on Sunday night or Monday morning, I would drive down to LA at 350 miles. And on Friday night or Saturday morning, I would drive back to my house in Berkeley with my family. Uh, I did that for about 8 months
Mm.
every week. And I tell that story because, people often want something, but they don't want to do what they need to do to make that something happen. And I don't care how smart you are, how talented you are, how gifted you are. Hopefully, you have the gift of perseverance and working and the understanding that to get something different, you have to do something different.
Yes.
I had people that told me I was crazy. I had people in the voiceover business who told me, well, you're never going to make it. I went down and tried. It didn't work for me, so it's not going to work for you. Just like I had program directors when I was first knocking on the door and said, well, there's something wrong with your voice. You're never going to make it in this business.
Huh.
And I had enough people that said, yeah, you got some talent. You're going to do this. But I can't tell you how much fire it put in my belly that there were people that told me, you can't, you won't be able to. You're not enough. You're
Mhm.
enough. You're enough. Um, so for about 8 months, back and forth, I stayed with Tom Kafka, who passed last year.
Mm. Sorry to
Um,
hear that.
Good friend, and he and his brother, we had been friends in high school at Hawkins School for Boys. And they were a couple of white guys who also came from less than stellar families in terms of money. They were a couple of lower middle class kids who were smart, and we connected. John's still a good friend of mine. And so I stayed with Tom for a month. I stayed with one of my uncles for a month. Then I rented an apartment with another guy from LA, from San Francisco, was trying to do the same thing. Um, and finally, after about 8 months, I was doing pretty well. I bought a little house in Pasadena and moved my family down, um, and did okay.
How was the strain on that? Because, you know, one of the reasons I think a lot of people either thrive or fail in our particular business, something I call the want to. Um, Listening to your story, you had a very big want to.
Yes.
Um, how did that affect with you commuting as much as you were with the family? Were there times where you like, well, look, I'm trying to do this for us. It's gonna be hard.
Well,
Uh,
when I first a approached my wife, telling her about it, she was good, go for it. Now, years later, we were divorced, and I think we actually were having some issues then. Uh, uh, there may have been, I really can't speak for her, but there may have been, she may have felt like, well, if he's out of the house, then we'll have fewer issues and problems. It wasn't really bad then. After moving down, a few years later, it was, divorce time.
yeah.
Um, but she was okay with it. And I was home every weekend. I was either getting in late on Friday or early on Saturday. Um, she was in graduate school at the time. working on her PhD in plant physiology. And wow, thinking about that, my kid was 10 years old, my
Mm.
daughter at the time. So moved the family down, bought the little house. I remodeled the house. My grandfather had been a carpenter and a construction worker, and so I kind of had some skills in my blood,
Oh, yeah.
and remodeled this whole little house, put in a new bathroom and so forth and so on. We lived there for a while, and I did very well. And after a couple of years, we bought a new house up in the hills, and that house, when we remodeled it, I was able to just pay.
Yeah.
Um, so things were going along really well, and part of the reason uh, I really believed in myself. I really believed that I can do this. I have the talent. This is me. I can do TV promos. I can do commercials. I can do animation. Video games weren't even a thing then.
Right.
And I was under contract to the Disney Channel. I was one of their voices for about 5 years. I did promos for CBS, the WB, ABC, from time to time, Fox and NBC, SoapNet, and CNN.
Mhm.
Um, I was doing a lot of promos and a number of cartoons. I was Bo Jackson in Pro
Pro
Stars.
Stars.
Yeah, Bo Jackson, uh, Wayne Gretzky, and Michael Jordan.
Mhm.
Because the world really didn't know that in their off hours, they're superheroes.
That's right.
I was also, I played Dick Scott, the manager of New Kids on the Block, in the New Kids on the Block cartoon,
Remember
which
that.
I always hated New Kids on the Block when I was on the radio. Uh, I just, this is this put together boy band. And, but thank you, New Kids on the Block, for because I got to make a decent living there on your cartoon.
For sure.
But over the years, I've had a chance to do some of everything. And in the 2000s, uh, in the mid to late 90s, video games started happening. And I would play characters in video games. There weren't that many of them,
Mhm.
but early on, I was one of the voices in a lot of video games. But I never really thought about, oh, this is something different than animation. It's just another form of animation.
Yeah.
And since I don't play video games, I never get to hear me. So, oh, it's another check. I loved doing the work, but I didn't have a demo for it. I wasn't thinking about this is a specialty.
Mhm.
Um, about 2011, somebody sent me a demo that they had created of stuff I'd done. And once again, since I didn't play, I didn't realize how big these games were that I was in, and how popular some of the characters. World of Worldcraft, playing Vol'jin, a bunch of different characters. And he sent me this video demo. And I was like, whoa, oh, this is me? Okay.
Mm.
And he asked me if I'll make any changes. I did. I said, no, I'm going to pay you a little bit. He was going to do it for free. I said, no, let me pay you a little money, because that way you
Yeah.
can fire him or ask for more. Sent it to my agent, and she was, oh yeah, we're going to market you with this. And shortly after that, The Walking Dead came along.
There it is.
Um, they had hired somebody else to be Lee Everett. And that person had done one episode of, those who don't know, the Walking Dead game was one of the first episodic games. So there were 5 episodes, and about every 2 months or so, we'd record another one. They'd fly me up to Northern California, little studio in Fairfax in Marin County.
Mhm.
Um, there was an engineer, Jory Pruum, had this little studio there that no one would ever know about in this tiny little town that was 3 blocks long and
Wow.
3 blocks wide. And you'd be up there for 2 or 3 days recording. Each episode was about 1,200 lines, and a few weeks later, you'd have uh, pickups and changes and that kind of thing. And I knew in the first 20 minutes of recording that this was something special.
Yeah.
This was different than just about anything else I'd ever done. One, because I could just use my voice, and the character was so real. The story was so engaging. The other characters, uh, marvelous, and the other actors they hired. This was just a tremendous crew. Mostly, I was the only guy working from L.A., but it was a bunch of really great Bay Area actors, some of whom have become stars of video games now. And when the first episode was released, the gaming publications went nuts. They loved it. They were talking
Mhm.
about how great the acting was and how great the story and so forth was, but I noticed they didn't mention anybody's name.
Hmm.
I started getting in touch with writers. I said, I notice you love the game. You mention the acting, but you don't mention any of us. Well, my name's Dave Fennoy. I'm playing Lee Everett. And so and so and so is playing this, so and so is playing this, and just so you know. So they started mentioning us. And that after that first season, um, we started getting awards. The game won more than 100 Game of the Year award in various publications. I was nominated for Best Performance in a Video Game a number of times, including a BAFTA, where I got to go to London for the ceremony. Unfortunately, some English person won, but you do discover that that old adage is true. It is an honor to be nominated and
True.
to be there for the ceremony and hoping your name gets called. Um, but I did win a number of other awards. I've got a Machinima Award and a Dice Award. One was in Vegas, and the other, I think, was here in Los Angeles. But that put me on the map in a way that I hadn't been before. I had been in 70 so games before that, and I think people knew my voice, but it's, oh yeah, that guy's voice. I really like him. But then it became award-winning actor Dave Fennoy, or
Yeah.
BAFTA-nominated Dave Fennoy. And that opened some doors. And those doors never closed. We were also at a tipping point in the video game industry. The Walking Dead game was a signpost to turn towards narrative storytelling in video games. There are a lot of games still out there. It's just bang, bang, shoot 'em up
Yeah.
with not much of a story. But more and more games now, there is a story component, even if they are a bang, bang, shoot 'em up. So I've been able to work in that. And I'd always, from time to time, taught a little bit. But I said, well, if I'm going to teach, I really need to take it seriously. And yes, I do everything. I can help people, I think, with everything. But because I have so much notoriety in video games, I'm going to concentrate in that area. And I just kind of, from the acting I'd had as a kid,
Mhm.
and when I was a theater major at McAllister College, and all the training I'd had since, I started to reverse engineer what is it that I do to be able to create a character, and started doing that. I created a course, which is ever growing and changing because you're ever trying to find new ways of getting across to your students what it is you're trying to say. Sometimes you'll say things like, take the words off the page. You know what it feels, but what does it really mean? And
Mhm.
how do they interpret that? Or voiceover is the art of making somebody else's words your own. Um, you understand that, but how do you make that happen?
Right.
Uh, so I've spent almost as much time now. Well, no, I can't say it's almost. I've been doing this for 34 years, but for the last 10 years, I've been teaching before that, but for the last 10 years, has been very concentrated, especially in voice acting for video games.
Well, I know, uh, you helped a certain individual. I am that individual. And one thing that you told me that, because of it, and plus I think I'm a pretty talented guy too.
That
But
you are. Yes.
I appreciate you, sir. I used to struggle because coming from the promo and narration world, I could not translate how to become a character. And you used to always tell me, well, characters don't walk around with scripts in their pocket.
Yeah.
And
It
I,
doesn't
I
have a
couldn't,
script.
yeah, I couldn't grasp that. I'm like, but we are and then one day I get it. It's a world that's already created. And that sat with me for a while. And I would go back and look at those old Zoom classes. And I'm like, okay, I think I know what he means now. And our good friend, Mr. Randy Ryan, had sent me a couple of auditions. And I'm like, all right, just keep telling yourself that he does not know. He's not gonna go and pull out, "Hey, I wanna fight you." No, you have to become, and I had to, become the person,
Yeah.
and, from there, it started to, the light bulb came on and never went off, and since then, I've been able to, be in a couple of games here, and, I wanted to make sure I tip my cap to you, sir, for your tutelage. Just
But
saying, folks.
let me say this. When we first met, this long before you started doing the video games, I remember that breakfast. And just by chance, we ended up having breakfast together.
Mhm.
And you played your demo for me, and you were at the point of, do I keep doing this? And the thing I heard was success on the way. And I think I told you then, man, just keep doing what you're doing.
Keep doing your thing. That's what you always told me. And, I kept doing my thing and, now I think I'm doing okay.
Oh, yeah, you're doing all right. You're doing all right
Yes, sir. Would you say, um you said you've been doing this 34 years
in LA.
in LA. I know that in other industries and other careers, there is a point where after doing a certain thing, especially when you're good at it for so long, you say to yourself, "Well, I have done this enough. I have given all I can give to this industry." Do you ever feel yourself slowing down?
Um, well, I think when you hit a certain age, certain things do slow down. Um, but no, um, look at all your favorite actors that have been doing this for some time.
Mhm.
Has Robert De Niro stopped acting?
Absolutely not.
No. Danny Glover?
Nope.
I see no reason for me to hang up my acting spurs, hang up my acting six guns, and no, I'm still out there, man. I still do it. I still love it. I still work almost every day, and I'm definitely working every day because I believe auditions are are our real work. When I'm on the job, I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and teaching has become a big part of what I do. My mother was a school teacher, and I used to tell her, "Oh no, I am never going to be a teacher. Y'all
Same
work too
here.
hard. You got to grade those papers." Ah. And now I love it, and very few things are as satisfying as somebody like yourself, uh, who I've been able to help a little bit. I know I'm not the only one. You couldn't have done what you do without the person you are, without the uh, artistic feeling that you already have. But to be able uh, to say I've been able to help uh, quite a few people realize their dreams, improve what it is they're doing to be able to book, especially one of the big problems, one of the big issues, one of the big challenges is to be able to move from that promo world into a world of actual character work. And
Yeah.
I actually think promo world is still character work, uh, but the rules of it
Mhm.
and how you're doing it and what you're doing and the voices that you're doing there are not voices that are going to work in character work. See, just kind of popped into that promo-y kind of thing.
I see what you did there.
I see what see what I did there? Where characters don't have scripts, they have a worldview. They don't always know exactly what it is they're going to say from sentence
Mhm.
to sentence, just like we don't. And you're trying to create real human uh, responses, or how far away from human you're playing a monster or something.
Yeah.
But it's all based on our humanity.
Speaking of, the hot button topic of the past couple of years, and especially in the last 18 months, for our industry, speaking of bringing the humanity of things, um, the hubbub with AI, what's your take on it? And, you know, some people feel it's gonna cut into our careers. Some say, well, yeah, it does a few things that we can do, but like you said, it doesn't bring a human element. Do you foresee it ever evolving to that level?
Well, far be it from me to predict the future, but looking at the overall um, conversation about AI, the people in the AI industry are talking about how wonderful it is, how it's going to save us so much work, that jobs that people are doing now, AI can do for them, and you'll have more time. But of course, what we worry about is I don't need more time necessarily. That'd be nice, but I do need an income. I do need a way to make a living.
Yes.
And if AI is going to take over all those jobs, what next for society? So we all have that fear. Um, if you spend any time on TikTok or Facebook videos, you are hearing AI voices all the times. They're the ones that the voice quality may be decent, but somehow it doesn't quite sound human.
Mhm.
That the landings of phrases aren't quite right, that the pacing is just too staid. Um, so you know right away, automatically, this is not a human being. And I know for me, it's lesser than. Um, my worry is that people will become accustomed to the AI voice, become comfortable with it.
Mhm.
Um, and it is going to take, and it already is taking a certain amount of work, not necessarily the best work out there. But I can imagine you pulling up to a burger joint, and uh, as you pull up, it recognizes your car and a voice, "Hi, how can I help you?" As opposed to the person in there
Yeah.
having to do it now, which is what they do. I imagine there are going to be companies, as a matter of fact, that there already are, that have a training video.
Mhm.
or an onboarding video for people who are going to work for them. And that voice now is an AI voice because it saves them X hundreds or thousands of dollars to get an actual voice to say these things.
Yeah.
So there's a place for AI voices. One of the better things about it, people who are voiceless. Um, we always heard that voice that,
Yeah.
um, they don't have to have that voice anymore. Say
Yeah.
you've got a teenage girl, is voiceless. She doesn't have to have this voice. She can have a voice that sounds more like the person she is.
Right.
And that's an example of. But I do worry about what's going to happen in the larger world of voiceover. I know for video games, they are trying to figure out ways to use AI voices for the world of dubbing.
Mhm.
One of the best things about dubbing is so many projects are being dubbed into multiple languages.
Right.
Well, there is an AI translator now that will take the actor's voice
Wow.
that did the job in whatever language and then translate it into a variety of languages. Now, is it working well? No. Uh, Individual languages, they have different songs, different
Mhm.
cadence.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's a really, really difficult algorithm for them to come up with, if not impossible to come up with. Uh, Now, maybe you're trying to translate something in your where it could help. You're traveling the world. You don't speak all these languages.
Mhm.
Maybe you can say something in English on your phone and it translates to the language of the person you're trying to talk to. I could see that.
Yeah.
Um, but we have to be careful. I've recently created, I haven't even checked it out yet, just recently created an AI voice for myself that I will be in control of. One of the things the National Association of Voice Actors is working on is to make sure um, that we are paid for our work, that we have control of where our voices go.
Mhm.
Um, and a number of companies who hire voices or cast voices have signed an agreement not to turn voices into AI. I got an email from one of my agents from somebody who was letting me know um, that some producer has cloned my voice and using it in some imitation game. Uh,
Wow.
that now I'm going to have to get a cease and desist and possibly sue. Because the thing is, our voices are ours.
Yes.
You can't just have it. Our images are ours. You just can't have it. One of the things that the film industry and television industry was talking about doing was hiring an extra for a day, getting all the movement, the face, the features, and then signing off to use that extra's image forever with not another nickel of
No,
remuneration.
sir. That's crazy.
That's where the world will like to go. And one of the things for those of us in this business, we're living in the world as it is.
Mhm.
And the world as it is, especially in this country right now, has turned itself over uh, to the billionaire oligarchs. Uh, we they're the ones who get the tax breaks.
Yeah.
Prices on everything have gone up. The average working person, um, and when I say average working person, I'm not talking about just somebody making minimum wage or $20 an hour or 30 or $40 an hour. Anyone who's not millionaire status is in working class. It's a
Yeah.
wide variety of us. Um, and although they say, well, we can't pay people more because then things will cost more. Well, they cost more anyway. We have corporations buying up available housing, and
Yes.
that's keeping housing and rental prices up. The reason we have a homeless population isn't so much because we're doing something wrong as average people, or they're doing something wrong. Yeah, there's people who are not quite all there, but you got a lot of people that just can't afford on the jobs they had to find a place.
Yeah.
You know, there when I rented an apartment here, it was $1,200 a month for a 2-bedroom in 1990, 91. Um, you're not going to find that 2-bedroom apartment anywhere in LA now for
That's
$1,200 a month.
no, maybe 3,500.
Maybe 3,500. It's insane. Corporations right now are bragging about their record profits. Well, why do they have record profits? Well, there's shrinkflation, where they're making the product smaller, and that helps with inflation, or helps hurt with inflation. And they're raising their prices,
Mhm.
so everything costs more.
Yeah.
They're buying back their stock and making sure they're paying uh, as big a dividends as they can to their shareholders. And there's a kind of a belief system now that it's all about the shareholders, and I just don't buy that. Um, I look at the 60s, not a perfect time, but a very good time for workers who were unionized.
Yes.
Uh, but along came Ronald Reagan and convinced the Americans that unions were not in their benefit, which has always amazed me. How is it that people can be convinced that somehow by you making less money, somehow you're going to do better? And
Right.
actually, I think a lot of it, a lot of the issues we have in this country come from racism. I remember the 60s when they had to integrate swimming pools in the South. What did the white people do? They closed the pool.
Yeah.
They bit off their nose to spite their face. No, my kids can't go to the pool because I don't want your kids to go to the pool. Often programs that are meant to help society, I think sometimes um, are voted down and not supported by a large part of the population because they're afraid somebody that doesn't fit the group that I think should get it is going to get it. Or the misconception, oh, well, it's all black people that are all on welfare. Well, no, some of us are, but a lot more of you are.
Mm.
Uh, at some point, I don't know when, I don't know how, we have to get over uh, this issue of racism. And I'm going to say it's a white and black problem.
Yeah.
We are as affected negatively mentally as they are often. We're definitely at its effect financially, uh, doing better now than ever before as Black Americans and people of color and minorities and sexual persuasions than ever. But there's a big pushback from freedom for those of us who didn't fit the white male female uh, category. And I don't think all white Americans are racist, but I do think we all have misconceptions and preconceptions. And when I say all, I mean all of us.
Yeah.
We've all been listening to this bullshit, hearing this bullshit, programmed by this bullshit. We all have certain ideas about certain people, and somehow we got to get over that. And I bet every one of you who might be listening. You've been in your car, somebody was going too slow or cutting across too fast or um, cut you off, whatever. And you saw that person, whoever they were. If they weren't you, there might have been a little racist thought that went through your head. It's not a good thing that the thought went through there, but we all get it. Me too. It's what you do with that thought.
Mm.
Do you accept that thought as and hold on to it and believe that thought? Just like every now and then somebody has thought, oh, this is terrible, I'm going to kill myself. You don't hang on to that thought, most of us.
Right.
Sadly, some people do.
Mm-hmm.
Just because a thought goes through your head, you don't have to hang on to it. You don't, I think we're all racist to a certain bit, but if we don't want to be, we don't have to be the racist that we might be.
Yeah. Absolutely. Before we wrap, uh, being that you have sustained uh, a career that has spanned 3+ decades, talk to the individuals out there who may be in their first year or their fifth year, and maybe they have a modicum of success, but the success is not consistent. How does one who has done it as long as you have and as well as you have, uh, not only stay consistent but stay relevant?
Sure.
Because I know in voiceover there is sometimes ageism, and they may say, "Well, we want a guy that's between this age and this age," and well, he may sound a
Well,
little too mature. Like how
well,
does
there's
that
there's
work?
that, but they might sound a little too young. One, I'm not playing a 20-year-old guy anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not really playing a 30-year-old guy anymore. But doesn't mean I don't work.
Right.
So yeah, there's a certain amount of ageism, but there are a whole lot of parts that I see for a grown, seasoned person, perhaps that has wisdom in their voice, or gravitas in their voice. And those are jobs that will come to me naturally. One of the things you have to do is continue to invent yourself and reinvent yourself. Stay as current as you can with what is happening now. About every 5 to 10 years, how people speak is different.
Mm-hmm.
The language changes, and thanks to us as Black folks, we're constantly creating new languages. Sad to say that I can't keep up all the time with how are the kids talking now? What are they saying? But it's a matter of fact. So as much as you can, stay current on what is new and what is happening. It doesn't mean that you're going to be completely fluent in it. I'll watch TMZ and who are these people? Who are these new stars? I don't know who these people are. But you want to stay as current as you can.
Yeah.
Notice what the trends are that are happening. I know for me, sometimes when I started hearing some different trends, one of my first reactions was, why are they hiring that person? Ooh, that's a terrible read. I ultimately learned that that shouldn't be the reaction I have, no matter how I'm judging that read. What I should be thinking about, why did they hire that person? What is it about this read that they like?
Right.
I was watching, going through some videos the other day, and Karen Gilfrey had a tip. And her tip was, she gave a little read like a lot of these videos that you see now where the person's, my husband or my wife was having a real problem with such and such, and we got this product, and wow, I got to tell you. And it was that, gee, I'm a real person who has used this product, and it's really
Mhm.
working for me, and I'm not a professional. I'm just just a guy, just a gal. That is becoming a read that is popular now in the world of commercials. If you're not aware of that, you don't know what they're talking about necessarily in the specs when they mention it kind of in a different way. Learning to understand what the specs are and being able to give them what they're asking for, but also develop instincts of your own that allow you to give it to them your way that still fits, but it's
Yeah.
you. And one thing I'm going to say about everybody out there listening that's doing voiceover, your secret sauce is you. There's a way that you speak that nobody else does. There's a worldview you have nobody else does. Be like your favorite character actors. Every time somebody hears you, there's a feeling that they get, a knowledge of, oh, that's so-and-so. Oh, yeah, that's that. They might not know your name. Oh, that's that voice that does that thing that I really like. And that's you. That's your natural song.
Amen. Now, my favorite part of the show as we close. As you know, the
Uh-oh.
show is called Take Time Out with Tre Mosley. Hence, on the timeout, we are very, very particular about how we spend our time when we're out of the booth, when we're not in front or behind the camera. So, for my watchers and listeners out there, Mr. David Fennoy, how do you take time out for yourself, sir?
Well, I spend time with my wife. We talk and play. We play backgammon most nights. I am the family champ, by the way, just in
Of
case she were to
course.
pop in here and try to claim that she's the champ. I play tennis. Haven't been on the court in a little while, but I have played tennis for years. I walk my dog around the Rose Bowl. Um, I actually, and part of me feels a little guilty about this, I like watching television. I like watching movies on television. Uh, and I do it, one, for the enjoyment, and one, for the knowledge I gain about acting styles
Mhm.
and what genres are popular now. Um, there's so much available to watch these days. There's no way you're ever going to be able to watch it all.
No.
But one of the ways of staying current is to stay as current as you can with the entertainment that's happening today. If you're watching Gunsmoke and trying to imitate that acting style or learn from those actors, I'm not saying there's not something you can learn from them. It's an old style of acting. Watch what is new. And I know for a lot of us with gray hair, got a few years on us, we often get that attitude, well, these young whippersnappers now, they're just ruining the world. They don't know what the hell they're doing. Well, the world is doing what the world is doing, and if you don't want to do that, guess what? The world doesn't care. It will pass you by. So run as fast as you can to keep from falling too far behind, or you will, and you will become irrelevant.
There you are. And there we are. Before we go, tell the folks how they can reach out to you on the socials and if they want to take a class with you and all that good stuff. Please and thank you.
I'm very easy to find if you're interested in voiceover coaching. DaveFennoy.com. DaveFennoy.com. There's a little study VO tab at the top. Click on that and book yourself. Every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, and YouTube, I do an hour broadcast called Ask Dave Fennoy Anything. I bring on voice actors, agents, tech people, people in this business to talk about their careers and helpful hints that they can give to help you further your career. Sometimes it's just me. As a matter of fact, tomorrow it will just be me, and I think I'll be talking about some of the phrases that I use when I teach and what they mean. So you can tune in once again, 6 p.m. Pacific, Facebook Live, 6 to 7, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter X, and YouTube. What else is going? Oh yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it. You can, Dave Fennoy VO if you want to follow me on Twitter, and there's a Instagram, Dave Fennoy.
So if you don't get anything today and say, well, I can't find him, that's your fault because he just gave you the whole rundown.
I'm easy to find.
He's easy to find. This has been a true joy for me. Like I said, you are looking at one of the building blocks in my foundation in this very fun career, and always a pleasure to speak with him. As a matter of fact, not sure when this is going to air, but I know you said you'll be coming out this way to Vegas. So
I'll be it's the second. I'll be there on the 14th, 15th. That's Saturday and Sunday. I'm teaching at the Voice Actors Studio in Las Vegas. It's hybrid. People will be there, and you can go to the TVA
I think it's TVAS.
TBAS and sign up if the class is the in-person class. I'm not sure if it's full or not, but there's an online component as well.
Well, hopefully I will get to see you, sir. Dinner's in
Yeah,
order.
it's when I let you know I was coming to town, you said, "Yo, I'm gonna be in LA with
I know. So if I am
you."
here, most definitely we need to get together. Um, but folks, that is Dave Fennoy. I am Tre Mosley, your host, and this was Take Time Out with Tre Mosley. Thank you all for joining, and we will catch you next time. Now, go take some time out for yourself.
Tre, love you, brother.
Thanks for listening to the Take Time Out with Tre Mosley podcast, part of the Titan Media Network. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or wherever you get your podcasts. To see the video version of this, you can find us on YouTube on the Take Time Out with Tre Mosley YouTube page. Thanks for listening, or thanks for watching. Either way, we'll see you next time.